Hey, thanks for checking in for Golf Smarter Mulligans. I'm Fred Green. This week we go back into the archives of the Golf Smarter podcast to episode number 24 that we call What Exactly Golf Course Management Is and How a GPS Can Enhance It, featuring PGA Master Professional Tom Tatnall. Now, even though I'm purposefully avoiding talk about products on the Golf Smarter Mulligans podcast, it seemed that instruction on how to best utilize any GPS unit for strategic course management and pace of play would be of value to all golfers. Golf Smarter Mulligans is supported by twoguyswithgolfballs.com, offering premium used golf balls at a fraction of the cost of new ones. Now, you do understand that when you play a brand new sleeve of balls, as soon as you make contact with that first ball, as soon as you hit it, whether it's in the fairway or it's gone, that is a used golf ball. Twoguyswithgolfballs.com has a unique grading scale for each of their hand-inspected balls, from eagle to birdie to par. If you want something that's like a brand new ball, then you want to order the Eagle quality ball. Golf Smarter listeners get an additional 10% off every order every time with a coupon code GolfSmarter. So the next time you lose a ball, or one of your playing partners lose a ball, make sure you know about twoguyswithgolfballs.com and save a lot of money. Now, the 10% discount offer expires April 1, 2020. Mulligans is also brought to you by Autoslash.com. Autoslash is the rental car booking hack that I want you to be aware of. Autoslash.com applies every available coupon code to your next car rental, including coupons you're eligible for based on your various memberships. Well, once you make a reservation, you let them know what you reserved for your car rental, and they will track that reservation until the day you pick up the car. And they'll email you if they find a better rate, not just where you found it, but anywhere on the web. The average user saves 30% off from any other booking site. And Autoslash.com is completely free. I've used it. I know this. It's real. And it works. So bookmark it now on your browser and get the best rate possible for your next car rental from the completely free Autoslash.com. Now, here's Tom Tatnall.
How you doing? Glad to be here.
Great, thanks. Appreciate you joining us for today. You know, we talk about course management skills a lot on this show, and getting the perspective of a PGA Master Professional can really help us here. You're the guy who teaches teachers, correct?
Yes, sir.
So talk to the layman here. Let's skip the middleman. Let's skip those teachers. Let's go right to the player, because that's who we're hoping to speak to. Let's talk about course management skills. Is that taught enough?
No, I think that's one of the areas that we don't do enough of. I think it's roundly neglected, and if you watch the typical golfer, they just really don't have very good course management skills. Even fairly good players. Many cases, you know, you see a guy will stand in the fairway and he'll look at a shot at his distance and he'll think to himself, if I just absolutely bust my 7-iron like I did 3 weeks ago Thursday night, I can get it over that bunker and on the green. And he doesn't think about the fact that he's not going to hit it that solidly about 80% of the time, and that even if he hit it solidly, he probably could hit one or maybe even two more clubs and still not be over the green. And he'll try to hit that ego shot where he just absolutely kills it and try to get it on the green that way, and he'll leave it short in the bunker. And we see that all the time. And we also see that people hate to leave the driver in the bag, even when it just doesn't make any sense at all, doesn't really help them to hit the driver. Why hit the driver when that brings bunkers or hazards or a narrowing of the fairway into play, when it's the difference between hitting your driver and your 3-wood would be that you would might hit a 6-iron into the green instead of an 8-iron. And you're much better off not taking the chance. But everybody wants to get the big stick out and hit it long with their fellow competitors, and they let their ego override their good sense. And then again, the other thing is that people don't really have any idea how far they hit their clubs.
Yeah, I've noticed that on the driving ranges that I get to go to, they have a 50, a 100, a 150, or a 142, and I'm trying to hit at that spot and thinking, okay, well, I hit this club 142, and actually it's just rock solid out there, and it bounces and ends up at 142, so I really don't have a sense of how far I hit my clubs. How can you learn that?
Well, there's a lot of ways, and there's you can try to calibrate your distances. I do some work with a company called Sky Golf, and we have the Sky Caddy, and it makes it real easy because you can you hit your shot and you press a little what we call a mark button, and when you get to your ball, you press it again. It tells you how far you've hit it. And some people don't want to know that. They don't want to know that they really hit it 239 off the tee instead of what in their mind they think was 395, but or 295 or 310 or 315 or whatever. I think that's a great asset because people, as I say, just really don't have any idea, and they can also calibrate their clubs with that. They can stand in an open area and hit, for example, 10 five irons out there and press the mark button and then get out into the middle of that array, and they throw out a couple that were extra long and a couple that they hit a little fat or something, and stand in the middle of those 10 or 15 shots, and that's going to tell them how far they're hitting their 5-iron that day under those weather conditions, that temperature, in that elevation, and they're able to calibrate their clubs. And we've found, for example, we have college teams that are using our product, and when they go to a different elevation, they go to Colorado or something, they will go out and they'll get the whole team out there, and each one will calibrate his 5-iron or whatever, 5 or 4, or somewhere in the middle there, and try to figure out how much difference the elevation is making. And of course, like in Denver, it can make a lot of difference.
Well, I'm not one on this program to talk about products very much because I want to talk about course management skills. But my sense is that this product, Sky Caddy, is going to have an impact on not only your performance, but your pace of play.
Yeah, there's no question it does. It's going to be 15, 20 minutes a 9 when you're using it once you've used it a few holes and gotten used to it. And that's why the Tight Lies Tour, which is a one step below the Nationwide Tour, people who are trying to make it professionally, but typically don't have skilled caddies with them. They went to our product even before the USGA and the R&A made them legal, and now the New England Tour is doing the same thing. And the primary reason is because of pace of play and because their players don't have the highly skilled professional caddies that the guys on a little higher level are going to have, and the product is intended to give them just about all the information that the tour caddy would provide them.
So you work with Sky Golf that manufactures Sky Caddy, and you know what we should say here is, what is a Sky Caddy? Sky
Caddy is a handheld GPS rangefinder. Just about like a cell phone. You wear it on your belt clip, or you can mount it on a cart or hook it on your bag, and gives you distances from any point on the course. Always will give you a big number to the green, and also has an IntelliGreen feature, which gives you more information about the green, front, center, and back, and an actual outline of the green, and lines up with where you are on the course. And it's all based on GPS satellites, so you don't have to have line of sight, and which makes it very, very flexible and works in any weather that it's safe to be on the golf course. Might not work in the middle of a severe lightning storm, but you shouldn't be out there anyway. and it's a great product, and it's just exploding in its acceptance now that the rule has changed and everything.
Can it also help you on the tee box as well? I can imagine for your approach shot it's critical, but on the tee box, is there any value there?
Absolutely, because from the tee box you can just press a button and it'll give you information about what you're facing out there. It'll tell you how far it is to the bunker, how far it is to carry the bunker on the left and the right if there's a bunker on the right. On a dogleg hole, it'll tell you how far, if you can hit it through the fairway, how far that is. And it just gives you all the relevant yardages that you would want to consider before you hit each of your shots. And again, as I say, the concept is based on what a tour caddy would provide his player. And a well-known tour caddy, Mark Long, who caddies for Fred Funk, has had a lot to do with the development of the program and training our people that go out and gather the information off the golf course.
I'm just mesmerized by this. This sounds like it can help everybody.
Well, it really can, and another great thing about it is that the program is set up so that you're able to download courses all over the country and, in fact, all over the world. And we now have over 9,000 courses in the United States, and 57 of the best of Golf Digest best 75 resorts, and 82 of Golf Digest 100 greatest public courses. So, if somebody's going to a different part of the country, they just plug their SkyCaddie into their computer, and they can download 10 courses in, say, Orlando or Phoenix or wherever they're going for a vacation or whatever, or business trip. And when they get there, they just turn it on and let it acquire satellite, and it takes a few minutes to find out where it is, figure it out where it is, and then it'll say, are you playing are you playing the Broadwater today? And you say yes, and it says, are you starting on the front, 1 or 10, and you press 1, and you're ready to go. And it's and one of the neat things about it, which is amazing to me, but it's ended up getting as many as 7 or 8 satellites all triangulating on one spot. So it's about as accurate as it can be. It's the same stuff that the Defense Department uses to target the bombs. So it's pretty darn accurate.
Well, that's really encouraging. Thanks so much. That's what I was kind of perplexed about, is when you purchase one of the SkyCaddies, does it come with every golf course in the world? I mean, that's what I was confused about.
No, what happens when you purchase it, you register it within 30 days, and you decide if you want to pay for a service to be able to get one course, which, a few local courses, which is about $20, or if you want all the courses in a state, it's about $30, and all the courses in the United States is all 9,100 of them is $49.95 a year, and then the international is $10 more. If you're going to go over and play St. Andrews, you can download that.
So it's an annual fee, or is it
it's a once-a-year fee.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, it's really very reasonable, and if you played 10 or 15 strange courses and bought yardage books, you'd quickly spend more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that the Golf Smarter podcast here kind of complements when we interview course pros about their courses. That would complement a SkyCaddie in the sense that that'll tell you how far to hit, and our course pro will tell you where to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they work together very, very well. Another thing that is helpful is that when we set up a golf course, we do the driving range. So it doesn't matter whether the tee blocks that day are back or front, or for some reason you're over on the side under a tree, or you're down on the other end with the golf pro giving you a lesson hitting the other direction. From wherever you are, you just scroll down to where it says red or whatever color flag you're hitting to, and it tells you that distance.
Are they pretty simple to use? Because I get the sense that not all golfers are tech savvy like the Golf Podcast listeners.
All I can say is I've been a golf professional for 40 years, and I have trouble programming my VCR or my DVD player.
VCR? What the heck is that?
Yeah, well, that gives you an idea. And I don't consider myself tech savvy, but I would say that if you get out on the golf course and use it one round, you're going to be very, very comfortable with it. And I know some people that use it, and all they wanted to get is the big number. They don't pay much attention to any of the rest of it. They're not really getting all the benefits, but to them that's very helpful. All they get is that big number, which is to the center of the green from anywhere they are. But to use all of it is really very, very simple, and it's funny. We find new applications. The golf coaches can sit down and put it in a in a demo mode, and they can sit around in a room with in a hotel room before a round with their golf team, and each player has his SkyCaddie turned on, and they got that course on there, and they can go in the demo mode, and they can go through each hole and talk about the strategy of playing that hole. And he can tell them, hey, I know most of you can clear that bunker on 14, but I want you to hit your 3-wood, because that's still only going to leave you a 7-iron in, and there's nothing to be gained by hitting your driver over that bunker, even though, you'd get a kick out of hitting it that far. So it's a teaching tool even when you're not on the course.
I want to change directions just slightly here,
Sure.
because you said something that really intrigued me here, and you talk about a golf team, and I'm assuming you're talking about a college golf team.
Yes, sir.
And they're sitting with their coach, and they're talking about strategy. I started playing golf when I was about 40. What is strategy? I mean, I don't have coaches out there. How, as the normal weekly, monthly player, how am I supposed to do strategy on a golf course? What does that mean, and how do I get to do that?
Well, it's simply playing the holes that in a way that recognizes the limitations and strengths of your game, and playing the holes in such a way that you minimize the chance for disaster, because none of us hit our shots perfectly every time. And avoid the things that you can avoid, and put yourself in a better position to score. That means, for example, that, as I mentioned, that you may not try to hit it over the bunkers, or you may not hit it short of the narrow spot on the fairway, where the fairway narrows down and makes it very hard to stay in the fairway. It means knowing the distance to hit a layup shot, to put yourself in the best position to leave yourself a full shot into the green rather than a delicate half shot that is tough for most people, including the touring professional sometimes. It means hitting for the part of the green that minimizes the dangers. And we hear about that a lot when we watch things like the Masters, and people try to hit it to the right part of the green, not always closest to the pin, and the right zone of the green, and so that if you do hit your shot less than perfect, you still are going to have a chance to make your par, and that's the kind of thing that I think people ignore, and need to pay more attention to.
Well, I just recently was on vacation in Mexico, and I got to play. My playing partner for an afternoon was Jesse the Body Ventura,
Wow.
the former governor of Minnesota,
Yeah.
and it was absolutely hilarious. I had a blast. But I never brought up the Golf Smarter podcast with him, because from the very beginning, he talked about it like, I don't care. I just hit it as far as I can.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I think there's another way to look at it. But he just,
Right.
I just hit it, wherever it lands. Should players walk into a round with a game plan? Is there a strategy that you can set up for yourself before you start your round of golf?
Absolutely. You got to understand the course, and understand that you take from the course what it will give you. If you try to hit shots that are maybe conceivable, but not very likely, or that put you in great danger of hitting into a hazard, or hitting off the fairway into heavy rough, or getting in a situation where you're going to have a very, very difficult time to recover, that's just not good management. And you're just not going to win events or score to your best potential if you do that. That's why, one of the old things that I learned a long time ago in teaching was that there are what people call the driving range golfers. They stand on the driving range and they can hit it great, and it looks as if they, you see them in the driving range and you think, well, wow, they ought to be able to play quite well. They strike it solidly, hit it a long way, and so on. But they can't take it from the driving range to the golf course and score. And two reasons, perhaps, because on the driving range they may not develop their short game, which is so very important to scoring, but also they don't have any thought about management of their game. And you have to be able to manage your game, and you see people that are really being successful. I mean, a lot of conversation about Mickelson and how he changed his game to be able to score better, and changed his game and his thought process in terms of the way he would go and play at Medinah. And there's been a lot of people who did that. Gary Player realized early in his career that he had to hit it longer if he was going to be successful in major tournaments. And he made some changes to his game, and then he thought about what he needed to be able to do, and obviously he had great success.
We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, you just said something at the beginning of that last statement that I want to break down just a little bit further. Okay?
Okay.
Again, here's your host for Golf Smarter, Fred Green.
We're back again with Tom Tatnall, PGA Master Professional. And just before we had our break, you said people should understand the course. Now, if you've never played a course before, what does that mean? And if you're a regular on a course, what does that mean? Understand the course for the lay player.
Well, I think it can be difficult with to understand a course that you've never played before, unless you've got some information that you can evaluate. But even as you stand on a given hole, you need to look at that hole, even if you've never seen it before, and you need to try to think about risk reward. Is it worth hitting my driver, or am I better off laying up? Think about the way the hole is laid out. What are the hazards? What are the places that might cause you a problem? And you have to be realistic about how far you hit it. If you think that you hit it 295, but you really only hit it 235, that may make a difference in how you plan it. So you do need to know your own limitations. In terms of a course that you play regularly, you get to know a lot more about it, and you ought to be able to see a pattern. If you find out that on a given hole, for example, trying to reach the green in two on a par 5 that you might do once in 20 attempts, if you find out that many times you don't reach it anyway, and in some cases, in 5 or 6 of those attempts, you leave yourself in a very bad position, get a penalty and a hazard or something like that, then you might decide, it's great if I can hit it once in a while, and I get pumped up about that, and I can sort of brag about it. But logically, if I really am concerned about my score, I ought to think about hitting my first 2 shots so that I leave myself in a good layup point, and then I can easily hit it on the green, and I'm going to maybe make more birdies that way than I am trying to go for it in 2.
We're not talking about a college team coaching. We're talking about the weekend, the leisure player. And people, listen, a lot of people have a competitive edge, and even a leisure player is competitive.
Absolutely.
Okay? What do you mean concerned about their score? And should people be concerned about their score?
Well, I think that's, I don't think anybody starts out and wants to have a bad round. I think most people are concerned with playing as well as they can. Now, I always tell my pupils to try to be realistic. If they are going to get mad every time they hit a shot that doesn't look like something that Tiger or Phil Mickelson or somebody would hit, then they're probably doomed to be very unhappy and not feel good about their game. But if you understand your capabilities and are realistic about how you can hit your shots, you want to perform as well as you possibly can at your given level. And I think that's just natural. If you don't feel that way about it, I don't know. To me, it would take away a lot of the fun of the game.
I agree. I think it does. But I think what I also witness is that people get too concerned about their score, and they try to do things that they can't.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we see that all the time. I see that in high school and college players. Even I saw an instance on the Futures Tour not too long ago, where a young lady who she's trying to. That's the sort of like the minor league for the LPGA, and they're trying hard. They're good young players, and she hit a bad shot off the tee, and then she tried to hit an almost impossible shot to recover. And if she had just taken her medicine and said, okay, I'm going to chip out onto the fairway, and I'm going to make bogey, or if I happen to make a long putt, I'm going to make par. But she tried to hit an impossible shot, and as in many cases, those shots don't work out. She caught a tree and got herself in worse position, got herself in a situation where I think she made 7 or 8 on the hole. And, that's a serious disaster that can ruin a whole round, where if she'd made bogey and gone on and said, okay, I'm going to make it up the next hole or the next few holes, I'm going to, averages will work out, and I'll hit some good shots and I'll make some birdies, it might have not have been so disastrous.
I had a personal experience just recently that was such an eye-opening lesson for me. On a par 5, my drive went way left. I mean, it ended up on just above a green on another hole, but I had a whole line of trees in my way. And instead of trying to work down the opposite fairway or trying to get it over the trees, I kind of like shoved it through. I was able to get it through the trees, keep the ball low, and put it in a spot where, with a long iron, I had a decent shot that put me on the green in regulation. I was blown away that I was back on the green in regulation, and I sank a great putt and birdied the hole. Yeah. I was amazed that with such an awful drive that I didn't just get so upset with myself and think, well, this is a double bogey coming up. And I just kind of stayed within myself there and was able to birdie the hole.
Yeah, that's a great illustration. I mean, I always used to think that on a par 5 hole, if you hit, you're getting a lot of shots, and you really only have to hit one really, really good shot on that hole to make birdie, whether it's a long putt or one good approach shot or whatever. You've got a little more margin for error. That's why in many cases it's hard to it's so much harder to score really well on a par 3. If you play a par 3 course, that can be very challenging to make a lot of birdies there because you don't have as many shots to make that one good shot.
Yeah, I know. Par 3s make me crazy.
Yeah,
because there's so little room for error on those. Right. Okay, so we know that you're a PGA Master Professional. And we know that you work with Sky Golf. Tell me what else you do. Who else?
Well, I do a lot of things.
Who are you?
I for about 8 or 9 years now, I've been involved in teaching for the PGA. Well, actually, for longer than that, but more intently for the last 8 or 9 years. I'm now an adjunct faculty member on the professional golf management program where we train our apprentices, and before that it was called GPTP, called Professional Training Program. And we work with the apprentices, do testing of them, and then if they are successful with their testing, then we provide them seminars and so on, and training to help them along their way to become PGA golf professionals. And I find that that's very rewarding and very interesting. I probably worked with 4,500, 5,000 young people over the last 8 or 9 years, and every once in a while I get a phone call from one of them and telling me about that they've achieved a certain accomplishment in their career. They've taken over a job or something, and that's always exciting. And or I go to a PGA annual meeting and I see one of them there as a delegate representing his section, and he's gotten into leadership there. And unfortunately, I don't always remember their names, but it's always great to have them come up and speak, and usually remember their face, but I don't always remember the names. But so that's one thing that I do. The other thing that I do, I have what is called the Golf Expert Group, which is actually a division of Tatnall Associates, which is a consulting operation, and the Golf Expert Group, we provide expert witness services for litigation involving golf. Somebody gets hurt in a golf accident or something.
Interesting. So with all this work that you do, you must have a very interesting perspective on the industry itself. So I'm going to ask you this. What are the major issues facing the golf industry today?
That's an excellent question. I think the supply of golf courses is a concern because we've frankly, we've built in many markets too many golf courses. Many of those courses real estate driven, and the real estate developer builds a course with no real good exit strategy. You know, he wants it to help him sell lots and houses, but then what's going to happen with it afterwards? And he just sort of assumes it's going to make a lot of money, but that may not be the case at all. So that's an issue, and we've got, you know, you get too many courses, and then, you know, everybody cuts their prices and their services, and so from a business viewpoint in the industry, there's problems in that regard. We're getting over them now a little bit, but there are some problems. Because as I said before, build it and they will come doesn't work. You know, it just doesn't. You don't just build a golf course and people will automatically come. Not enough people to make it work. The other problem, I think, is a big problem is pace of play. I think you know, if we don't get a handle on pace of play, that drives people away. And maybe the third problem is we get golfers into the game, but we don't always keep them. And that may be a function of that we don't teach them properly. They're intimidated by going out and when they're relatively new to the game and not, you know, how are they going to be accepted by other golfers? And so and I think the PGA of America is doing some great things with our Play Golf America initiative, where we get people out there and help them feel a little more welcome and feel like they can enjoy the game, and you know, get families involved, make it a family activity, and so on. And, you know, try to find ways to make it affordable for people to get out and play, and let newcomers play at maybe at times a day when they won't be pushed along, and so on. So I think those are the big issues right now in the industry as a whole.
It's interesting when you talk about so many courses. If you go down to Phoenix, where there are so many golf courses in Phoenix, and there are so many high-end golf courses in Phoenix, what happened to supply and demand here? With all these golf courses, why is it so expensive to play there?
You know, we may have to recognize that there is a market for golf that is not on courses that look like what we see on television when the professionals are playing. And, you know, and maybe there's a market for golf that is a little more economical, that is not quite to that high maintenance standard, that doesn't have that you know, $8 million clubhouse that with the marble and everything that looks gorgeous. Maybe there's a market for a little more affordable golf with not quite so many bunkers and not the perfect conditions and not you know, the intense cultivation and watering that cost a lot of money. Maybe there's people who just like to play golf and even if it's not in perfect conditions, at a price that they can afford.
Okay, so if I can summarize everything that you've just been talking about, it seems to me the issue with the industry of golf is ego. Whether it be the golfer, and he wants to hit the ball far, and he hits it way out of the way, and he's taking everybody's time, and it slows down the pace of play, or the ego of the owners and developers who want to make the $8 million clubhouse and the high-end golf courses. Is that what's getting us in our way?
Well, in some cases it is. That's certainly that's a good way to put it. And even in the teaching area, you know, at a typical country club, not many men can get around the ego thing of taking a golf lesson. And this varies a lot, but to some men it's an ego thing, and they don't need anybody to show them how to play golf. And
right. I was a natural athlete when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, and yet, but you know, they'll send their wife out because, you know, well, sure, she needs to learn, you know, and but it's you know, it's many times they could use the help just as much as she could. I always remember way back when I was an assistant professional at a club in suburban Chicago, right near Medina, where we're going to have the PGA Championship this summer, and there was a guy there that. You know, he was a nice guy, and I'd known him. I'd caddied there and grown up there, and then I was the assistant professional. And this guy was getting beat like a drum. You know, he was always losing. He just couldn't seem to compete, and he was he had a fairly decent handicap, but he just couldn't perform. And he was a Sears employee, as I remember it, and those people in that era had been with the company long enough that they were going to be pretty well to do when they retired just automatically because of the growth. And he lived quite a ways away, and I a couple times said, I really think I could help you out with your game, and no, it's too much trouble. And finally I made him a deal. I said, look, I'll give you lessons for a while. Once a week I want you to come out and we'll do a lesson. And I don't want anything, but I don't want anything for my time except I want 25% of what you win in the next 12 months because I'm going to get you, so that you're going to win. And I knew him well enough that I could make that kind of. I'd known him for 15 years, I suppose, and I could make him that kind of proposition. And he went for it. And he went from like a, I don't remember exactly, but say a 21 handicapper down to 13. And at that early stage in my career, those were some of the best lessons I ever gave in the sense of how much I earned from him because I got him to do it. But a lot of men, just don't want to. They just don't think that's unmanly to take a lesson.
Oh boy,
and that's a shame.
Yeah, I guess so. And then the other issue that we talked about, pace of play, Sky Caddy's going to help that. GPS has been helping that, huh?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question because now you don't have to walk anything off. You just press a button and you've got your number no matter where you are, and you don't have to worry about line of sight. You can be under the trees, doesn't matter. You're going to have that number, and it really does make a difference. This last summer at Baltusrol, I happened to come out of the merchandise area where our product was being sold and out onto the 16th hole, the monster hole, and I was walking along the fairway up towards the green, and Bernhard Langer had hit it over there way left under some trees, almost into the hospitality areas, and I was standing there and had my Sky Caddy, and I, of course, obviously couldn't show it to him or his caddy, but I stood there and I just pressed a button and I had the number, and I knew how far it was to the green. I also knew how far it was to the logical layout point at 100 yards out. His caddy spent at least 5 or 6 minutes walking out to the center, getting his book out, pacing, trying to triangulate, trying to figure out where he was before he could give Bernhard an idea of what kind of a shot he had to hit and what he was going to do from that position. And that's a pretty good example to me of how much time it could save, because it would have taken me about seconds.
All right, last question. Somebody wrote to me, one of the listeners of the Golf Smarter podcast wrote to me, and I was shocked that this person would ask me this question. They said, look, I'm going to Ireland. I'm playing 5 courses in 7 days. I only play about once or twice a month. I've never played more than 3 days in a row. How am I going to maintain my physical and mental focus over those 5 rounds over 7 days? And I wrote back to him and said, I don't know. Why are you asking me? I'm a student here. I was just shocked and flattered that they would ask me, but I don't have the answers. I have a PGA Master Professional on the line right now. What's your advice, sir?
Well, that's a good question. I think I would say, first of all, enjoy the moment and make it fun. Realize that you're going to be playing a different kind of golf, different kind of shots than you're hitting it at home, and maybe do some preparation for that. And then once you're there, I think that you don't want to get caught up too much in what you did one day and when you carry it over the next day, and try to stay focused. I think that actually, as you play round after round, I think in some ways it's easier to stay focused than when you jump out from your regular routine of work or whatever and get out on the course. It takes you a while to get into the swing of that. Maybe not too much of that good Irish whiskey at night, and and plenty of rest would help. And again, try to think about the golf course. If you can get a way to look at the golf course in advance, in some way know something about the layout, know something about the weather conditions, and try to don't fight them. If it's raining, remember that everybody else is facing rain, so you're going to have to face it and do the best you can with it. And if it's the wind is howling and blowing, don't try to fight it. Play with it. Some of the most enjoyable rounds I've ever had in my life were in heavy winds, because it was mentally challenging to figure out how that was going to affect your game. And you play a par 5 into the wind, and 6 may be par, but focus on that, and just try to focus on enjoying yourself, but also on taking each shot one at a time and trying to not take more than the course will give you.
That's great advice. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you could answer, because, like I said, I'm like, I've never been to Ireland. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
One of the things I want to do one of these days.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
And talking to you was one of the things that I wanted to do, and I've accomplished it. Now I can check it off my list.
All right.
And also, local knowledge. I mean, between Golf Smarter and the T-Tour videos, getting information on a course, talking to the head pro there, and getting advice on how to play a course, or making sure that the person you're playing with, if you're playing with strangers, maybe they know something about a course.
Sure.
Local knowledge is huge.
Oh,
and I
absolutely.
think that's the thing that we promote more than anything on Golf Smarter and the T-Tour video is local knowledge.
Absolutely. And you put that information together with a Sky Caddy that shows you how to exploit that knowledge, and
you'll be shocked at how your scores go down.
Absolutely.
Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.